Ever feel like just keeping up with the news is a full-time job?
Huh. Tell me about it.
Well, imagine being in charge of an entire city.
Oh, I can only imagine.
That's what the Springfield City Commission just wrapped up, actually their big 2-day retreat.
Their annual retreat, right?
Yeah, and they covered a ton. I mean, we're talking police reform, aging infrastructure, even a total transportation overhaul.
The works. So they're figuring out how to keep Springfield running smoothly.
And hopefully thriving, too. You guys sent over the meeting minutes from the retreat.
Our favorite.
Right. A total treasure trove of info. And lucky for you, we love digging into this stuff.
Well, these city retreats are fascinating. It's really where the rubber meets the road. Where their vision for the future starts to become a reality.
It's true.
It's a glimpse behind the curtain to see what's really on the minds of city leaders.
Yeah, it's like a master class in city planning, but way more interesting than it sounds.
Way more interesting.
Promise. And in this deep dive, we're breaking down the highlights, the challenges, and what it all means for Springfield's future.
Let's do it.
Ready to dive in?
Absolutely. Let's start with something that's been making headlines everywhere. Police reform.
Yeah, good place to start.
Springfield's taking a really proactive approach by creating their first ever strategic plan for the police department.
Their first ever.
First ever.
Wow. That is a big deal.
It is.
And the minutes highlight some pretty big challenges they're facing. Youth violence is a major concern. Plus, get this, over half of their officers have less than 10 years of experience on the force.
Really? Wow. That's a lot of new faces.
Right. Talk about a learning curve.
Definitely. It's interesting, though, because on one hand, you have a department full of officers who are potentially more open to new approaches.
True.
Fresh perspectives. Maybe even more open to community policing strategies, which a lot of cities are moving towards these days.
Right.
But it also highlights just how important training programs and mentorship are within the department.
For sure. Speaking of which, the city did mention a $1.3 million grant specifically to address youth violence.
Oh, wow.
And they're partnering with Case Western Reserve University to make it happen.
Okay, that's huge.
Right. This isn't just local action. They're bringing in some serious brain power to tackle this.
Bringing in the big guns.
Yeah.
It's smart. Partnering with universities like that lets them develop programs that are actually evidence-based.
Yeah, yeah.
And it just signals that Springfield is serious about addressing this.
100%. Okay, so let's switch gears now from fighting crime to fighting, well, leaky pipes.
The glamorous world of infrastructure.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
But seriously, Springfield's taking a hands-on approach to upgrading their water system. They're actually replacing all those ancient water meters themselves.
Wait, are we talking about those old school meters?
Yeah.
The ones that have probably been there since the dawn of time?
Oh, absolutely. They probably predate the internet.
Seriously.
Seriously.
Amazing.
But you know what's even more amazing? They're saving $4 million by doing it in-house.
Wow. See, that's what I'm talking about. A proactive approach that saves taxpayer money. I love it.
Right.
Plus, while they're at it, they can address another issue that we hear a lot about. Those lead pipes.
Ugh, yeah, not
A
good.
major health concern in older cities.
Huge.
Huge.
But replacing all those lead pipes, that's no small feat. The minutes mention a cost of $127 million.
Oh, wow. You could buy a small country with that.
Right. I mean, that's a staggering amount of money. It really puts things into perspective. These aging systems desperately need an overhaul, but the cost is just astronomical.
It's a huge challenge for a lot of cities. They have to get really creative with funding.
And prioritize.
Absolutely.
Speaking of creative solutions, Springfield is really hitting the gas on a complete transportation system overhaul. Oh, what are they thinking?
Get this, they're saying goodbye to the traditional bus system and hello to something called microtransit.
Microtransit. Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Okay, so picture this. Instead of waiting at a fixed bus stop,
Yeah. You just whip out your phone and request a ride.
like a ride-sharing service, but for public transportation.
Exactly.
Interesting.
And then the system calculates the most efficient routes, picks you up, and drops you off, all on demand.
It sounds so futuristic.
Yeah.
But how realistic is that for a city like Springfield?
That's the million-dollar question. And they're going to have to figure out what to do about the folks who rely on those fixed bus routes.
Good point.
So, big questions to answer. They mention relying on federal and state funding to make this happen.
Makes sense. A project like that is going to need some serious financial backing.
Oh, for sure.
And partnerships, too. I bet they'll be looking to local businesses to help subsidize costs and tailor the system to the community's needs.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's going to be really interesting to see how this all plays out. Okay, so we've got police cruisers maybe going electric and buses turning into on-demand vans?
Springfield's not afraid of a little change, are they?
Clearly not. But what about the rules that shape the city itself? I'm talking about zoning codes.
Zoning codes.
Yeah. The unsung heroes of urban planning.
Right. People don't realize how much those things impact their lives.
Exactly. And Springfield's current zoning code is, well,
Let me guess, a little outdated.
a little bit. It's from 2001.
Back when we all thought flip phones were the coolest thing ever.
Seriously. So yeah, a zoning overhaul is way overdue.
Think about how much the world has changed just since 2001.
Right. So much.
A modern zoning code, something user-friendly, that can be a game changer.
Especially for businesses, right?
Especially. It can streamline the whole process for them, make it easier to open their doors, bring jobs to the community.
So instead of waiting months for permits, they could be up and running in no time.
Exactly.
That makes sense for attracting new businesses, but what about the people who already live in Springfield? How does this impact them?
It's all about creating vibrant, livable neighborhoods for everyone.
Oh, okay, I like the sound of that.
Think green spaces, walkable streets, those mixed-use developments where you can live, work, and play all in the same area.
So you might not even need to own a car, really.
Exactly. That's the goal. It's about improving the quality of life for everybody.
Love it. Okay, so we're talking about transforming Springfield from the ground up, but we need to be realistic. All these big plans they have require one crucial ingredient.
Money, money, money.
Always. So how is Springfield's financial health looking these days? Did they strike gold or what?
Well, remember those ARPA funds?
Oh, yeah, back in 2021?
Right, when the federal government stepped in to help local economies recover from the pandemic.
Right, right.
Springfield actually received a pretty hefty sum, $44 million to be exact.
$44 million, that's huge. I was not expecting that.
It's a lot of money, but it's not without its caveats.
What do you mean?
They've got to allocate those funds by the end of next year,
Okay.
and all of it has to be spent by the end of 2026.
Oh, wow, so the clock is ticking.
It is. They've got to invest those funds wisely and make sure they're going to have a lasting impact.
No pressure.
Right. But that's not all. They're also dealing with some financial headwinds, you could say.
Oh, like what?
The minutes mentioned a bit of a dip in their income tax revenue.
Really? Why is that?
They think it's the rise of remote work, actually.
Oh, interesting.
Income tax is a major source of revenue for cities. And with more and more people working from home, well,
It's throwing a wrench in the system.
pretty much.
So if you're not commuting to an office in the city every day, you might not be paying income tax there anymore.
Exactly. So cities are trying to adapt to this new world of work. And it's not always easy.
A whole new ball game.
It really is. And that's where things get interesting, because even though Springfield has its share of financial challenges, the minutes also hint at this spirit of innovation.
Oh.
Yeah, this real willingness to find new solutions.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that just might be the key to their success.
Okay, so we've covered a lot.
A lot.
From fighting crime and fixing those leaky pipes.
Right.
To those buses, they're going to be like taxis now.
It's pretty ambitious.
Springfield is definitely trying to shake things up.
They don't seem afraid of a little change.
Not at all. But with all these big plans in the works,
Yeah.
the big question is, can they actually pull it off?
Can they really become this model city they keep mentioning?
Right. So how do they plan to make it happen?
Well, they do have that Thrive 25 strategic plan.
Oh, right, with the catchy name.
Yeah, it's all about tackling those big picture goals.
It's a lot to tackle.
It is.
So remind me again, what are those key objectives?
They want to retain employees. So keeping people in the city,
Okay.
keeping the city's finances healthy and making sure things are transparent,
Right.
and improving communication with residents.
Got it.
Those are the big ones.
And all of that ties back to what we've been talking about, right?
Absolutely. Attracting and keeping good police officers, spending all that ARPA money wisely,
Yeah.
making sure the zoning code works for everybody.
It's all connected.
It really is. It's all interconnected.
It really is.
But here's the thing.
What's that?
The success of these plans really comes down to the people.
The people of Springfield.
Exactly. Citizen engagement is going to make or break this whole thing.
Oh, interesting.
Whether it's holding those city leaders accountable, participating in those public forums,
Yeah.
speaking up about what matters most to them.
Making their voices heard.
Exactly. That's how these plans become reality, not just something written down on paper.
Right, right. It's more than just talk.
Exactly. And that's what I find so interesting about Springfield.
What is that?
They seem to be embracing these challenges head on.
Yeah,
They're not afraid of those tough conversations.
it's a good sign.
They're kind of like holding up a mirror to other cities across the country.
Oh, how so?
Because let's be real, Springfield's not alone in facing these issues.
Not at all.
From that aging infrastructure we talked about to the
Mhm.
changing workforce,
Right.
cities everywhere are trying to figure this out.
It's a whole new world.
It really is. It's like we're making things up as we go.
So what does it all mean? What have we learned from this deep dive into Springfield and their master plan?
If there's one big takeaway for me, it's that change is going to happen.
It's inevitable, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's how we respond to that change that really matters.
And how are they responding?
Well, in Springfield's case, they're meeting those challenges head on.
They're not shying away.
Not at all. With innovation and collaboration
Like
and a whole lot of optimism.
They're going to need that.
They are. But it's a good reminder for all of us that the future isn't set in stone.
It's not predetermined.
Exactly. It's something that we create together, one decision, one conversation at a time.
I love that. Well, folks, there you have it. Springfield's grand plan laid out for you.
Laid bare.
A city tackling big, tough questions, but with even bigger dreams.
They got big plans.
Will they succeed? Who knows? Only time will tell.
It's going to be an interesting ride, that's for sure.
I'm definitely along for the ride, and hey, maybe their story will inspire other cities to be bold and rewrite their own rule books.
Now, wouldn't that be something?
It sure would. That's all the time we have for today's deep dive. A huge thank you to our expert for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to geek out on city planning.
Anytime. And to all of you listening, thank you for joining us on this journey.
Until next time.